Howdy, today I'm going to be breaking down the mix session for Jeff Slaugh and I's next single, Sweetest Thing, which is the second single off our upcoming album, The Flats. This track is a very pop-orientated, alternative pop, indie pop, 1970 vibe style track. It's the only track that features a full proper vocalist. Devin Barrus, he featured and wrote the lyrics and did the vocals, and quite honestly, they're one of the best vocal deliverables I've ever received, and probably one of the easiest vocals I've ever had to mix. So I'm going to go through the entire breakdown of what I did to everything and the instrumentation and a full breakdown. Apologies for my voice, a little croaky today. So at a top line level, I have my two bus out, my instrumental bus, and my a cappella bus. On my stereo bus, it's very simple. I have metric AB. For those of you who don't know what this is an incredible referencing plugin, which is absolutely amazing. You can see here I've got the band Camino and 1975 tracks here as a reference point. I won't play the B side of it for YouTube pickup reasons, and I've also got the ISIL 8 plugin, which I love to use. In my last mix breakdown video, I explained how this broke down band waves, different sections. So if I just do a little demo right now.
No, I can't get back to you. Someone help me get through. Can't get back to you.
So very, very useful for hearing everything once you feel like you've put together a first draft. And when you're referencing, you can reference against other tracks. So you can see there's a spectrum wave here.
Someone help me get through. No, I can't get back to you.
So the blue wave is our song, and the orange wave is the song I put there as reference. You can see that there's quite a lot of lineup. There's a little bit of difference. The other song has a bit more low end, a little more top end, and ours one has a little more mid range. On top of that, on this session, I used the Shadow Hills mastering compressor. I used a little bit of Sooth 2 and Eosis Air. Just to knock out a little things and boost around the 2K, a nice cut as well, around like the 30 hertz area, and boosting a little bit of air. I have my virtual Riksmerk and my FG Grey on my instrumental bus, as well as the Shadow Hills Class A compressor on the acapella. So if we break down everything at a drum level, this track, very, very simple, because Jeff supplied me things put together. So if we just listen to the drums now. So that's super simple grouping. If I just take off some things that I've put on here, you can hear what they were like raw. And then with everything on as well. So you can see that unlike some of the other tracks I've dealt with, and maybe you've dealt with too, 4 stems for percussion's pretty much nothing. I've got EQ at a top level for the acoustic and the trap drums, as well as a de-esser on these because of the hi-hat. That's just something I like to do. And a little bit of an EQ on the clap thing. I've got EQ on the snare with the Lindell 80 channel, which I absolutely love. I didn't use it this time, but nuke mode is awesome. If I just play. Oof. Yeah, that's clipping, but it's like nuke mode is is the reason why you buy this plugin. It's awesome. And at top level, I've got an SSL comp, virtual mix track, and a limiter on the virtual mix track is the thing that I tend to do with a little bit of parallel saturation at a top line level of all of these buses to get them going. But the drums for this overall were pretty simple. From there, we go to the pad work, which, if I just make this bigger so I can see it. Yeah, very simple. But I mean, that's the thing with stuff like pads. Yeah, I addressed everything at a bus level as opposed to an individual stem level because I felt like individual stem level would have been a waste. All the treatment I wanted to do them was the same. Put a little bit of an EQ on. Did I put a room? No, I put a normal verb. Then I put on, just some saturation and the limiter again. But essentially the two things I did was a little bit of EQ. Yeah, basically cutting away a whole bunch of stuff because there's just nothing there. And then just two notches out that I felt were a bit rushed. And then, 40% mix for a verb just to give it a little bit more of that space feel. But overall, stuff like this, you have to treat them subtly because they're going to be subtly in the song. You don't want to overpower them. You don't want to make them too big. I mean, if you look at the gain staging I have here, this is at -44, -14, -8. I mean, you can argue it's just never heard. And it's like, well, yeah, maybe it's never heard, but it's not never felt, if that makes sense. There's room for all sounds in tracks, and you just need to find where it is you're putting whatever element it is. That's there.
I feel the heat until the sweat's dripping down your knees. I fell in love in the city, fell in love, I took you in like a breath of the morning.
It is super, super subtle, but there is a moment there where when I mute it, I can hear this tiny, tiny little subtle, I've heard it for so many times, and I've heard it with a version with that in there, that there is just a tiny bit of absence without it. Then we get to the fun stuff, get to the bass. So this was super simple. EQ, not a huge amount. And then, just a little bit of FGMU. Just on the crusher mode, and I've made some adjustments where I thought it was necessary. Then saturation and limiting. The thing is that because Jeff and I produced these together, we wrote them together. We kind of put together all of the sounds and all the leveling that we wanted from the get-go. That's the benefit when you produce and write your own album, and then someone in that group goes to mix it, because you're not outsourcing. You don't have to guess. I knew exactly what we were going for end product, so that when it came to production, Jeff and I were selecting sounds that were almost close enough to be where they want. I mean, if I just take these off for a second. Yeah, it's just a little bit of that extra boost, because as you start to add things onto other sounds, this needs a little bit more help now. It needs to cut through more. You need to get rid of some of that mud at the bottom. Then from there we go to the piano. Yeah. So this is a bit of a loop here that Jeff did. It's got Pro Q3 that I've put on it. I've done a little bit to it because I just wanted to do a little bit of crafting. You can see here that I had Neutron 4 at one point, because there was just something about this piano I didn't like that much once I put it all together. If I just play it without. It felt a little thin to me at the time. Thus, you can see, there's a bit going on here. There's a couple bands here doing a few specific things, trying to get a little more air into it, a little more mid-range, and knocking out some things I didn't like. I've got like a synth lead pusher with an FG 116, and then like the revival on as well. And I've also got like a boost just around the 4.8K and around like 110 on an EQ. And then I've got like a 1980s like smooth plate verb on a very subtle one, but it's still there. And then from there we start to get into the synths, which is the synths, the guitar, and the vocals really were the driving force for this song. So if we listen through here. So yeah, sounds like this. Maybe they don't hold the entire key melody, but those bells, they hold that little motif there. The melodic synth holds the dun dun as well. Those are all the secondary layers underneath vocals and guitar and stuff that build up themes throughout a song. So you want to make sure they sit right. So the only thing I've applied here for this one was a little bit of a widener. By the way, Polyverse Wider, this is a free plugin. If you haven't got this, go get it. I'd never really go like that because it creates artifacts that I don't like. Like anywhere from 30 to 60% is pretty cool. I stop liking it when it gets like that. But that's not bad right there. And then from there, I addressed synths at the top level because I just felt like, again, they sat in the same range to me to do what I wanted. So I addressed like a few EQ bits. I added a vintage verb, a more modern plate. I also added, just saturation and limiting. I guess that's the thing. With a song like this, and our first single, Odyssey, there's nothing in here that we're doing mix repair. There's no mix repair, there's no sonic repair. I'm trying to just add like final flavor on top of sounds we've already spent a good amount of time crafting. So we're not trying to fix or repair anything here. And then, the limiter, and that goes into the instrumental bus like the rest. From there, we've got the guitars, and now the guitars are a little more involved for this track because, so I recorded all the guitars, played them all live, so we got a bit... So I used the one archetype on all this, which is the archetype of Barsi. In the time since, Neural DSP has been gracious enough to hook me up with many other of their archetypes for other projects I've got going on. They're an incredible company, and all the guitar tones on this track were used, crafted by their plugins. If I could go back, I would probably use their archetype Rabia if I had it at the time. But the tones I got out of it was pretty much what I had in mind. So I split things into leads, riffs, and then I guess additionals, and in this case it was tremolos. So panning decisions, I always pan riffs left and right, hard left and right. If I want a quad track, I can too, and pan it less hard left and right. So it's like a 2 o'clock and a 10 o'clock, and then a hard like 7 and 5 o'clock. Leads are always pan centered. Tremolos, since there was only just a low and a high harmony, I pan them center too. you can see that I kept pretty much my guitar chain being relatively the same, but I adjusted, like it's all the same block of stuff, but within those are all different EQ changes and movements. All of them have Pro Q3, all of them have a little bit of reverb, little different on it, and then going into like the riff bus has like Soothe and Neutron 4. It has like a little bit of a guitar clamp on there too. It's got the Spirit as well. If you haven't used this, by Cradle, it's actually a vocal compressor plugin made by Lewis Bell and the team at Cradle. And then I've also got like a final EQ going there. Then the tremolos have very little on them, just like arch type, that's it. They go into the guitar bus, which has a tiny bit there. Leads have like Soothe, the guitar clamp, Spirit, and Neutron as well. I just wanted to get a little bit of shaping because, in all honesty, the arch type that I used to get these guitar tones is not right for this genre. There are other arch types that would have been better that I have now that I didn't have then that I would have used. So I did quite a bit of tone shaping to get it to sit where I wanted it to be. So if we just listen in context, I'll just mute the vocals. So, and the other thing is, it's like I come from a metal playing background, so I'm so used to everything being tracked super perfectly, and I honestly didn't want that. Yeah, so there are bits here where there's a little, it's a little forward, it's a little back, and I heard that and I acknowledged that and I left that because with a track like this, I don't want it to be perfect. It shouldn't be. People don't listen to music because it's perfect. They listen to it because it makes them feel something, and sometimes, really tight guitar serves a purpose in some genres, and in other genres it's not worth it. But let's talk about the vocals. My favorite part about this, they look like that. He did not give me vocals fried up. They actually look, I just put them up so I can make sure I see everything because I'm blind. But if we go on the vocals and take a listen to everything.
She's the sweetest thing that I've ever known. And I want the taste of her tongue going down my throat. Oh, as long as I'm standing here, you'll never be alone.
So let's talk about just like the big question in the room. How much work did I get to make these vocals sound this good? Well, for starters, massive credit goes to Devin because they're probably the best vocal stems I've ever been given just out of the box. If I turn off everything, like this is how they sound.
Oh, she's the sweetest thing that I've ever known. And oh, I want the taste of her tongue going down my throat. Oh, as long as I'm standing here, you'll never be alone. And no, get me back to you. I can't get back to you now.
And you can obviously hear he's done his own tuning. He's put a little compression on, and he's delivered them to me in such a way that is incredibly crisp, incredibly clean. If anyone out there ever needs like these style vocals for like a song or session work, go hit him up because like the deliverables he gave me, quite honestly, I just like put them in my session. I'm like, this is going to be so easy to work with. So here's what I did. So at the acapella bus, I have a Class A, just let it recover. Class A mastering compressor. Just give it a minute. I will talk whilst it's going. Class A mastering compressor. And then I've split the vocals up amongst three groups. So I've got like the vocal mains. Then I have like vocal extras, which are kind of like non-Devon vocals, but they're still vocal sounds. If my session allows me to move, thank you. So yeah, vocal extras. Vocal extras are like non-Devon sounds. Then I've got the vocal leads.
And oh, get me back to you. I can't.
And then I've got vocal harmonies.
No, I want the taste of a tongue going down my throat.
So I've just turned that off for now. So if I just turn that all off.
Oh, as long as I'm standing here, you'll never be alone. And oh, get me back to you. I can't get.
So the compressor, you know, is doing its job. It's pumping things out that are going past a certain point and giving it that little bit of extra juice the way I want it to. But even like with just the compressor, you can already hear how great these sound.
No, I want the taste of a tongue going down my throat.
Like absolutely crushed it. So there is like a low harmony, a double harmony, harmony A, B, C. You can see, you know, I've mixed them in the way I felt it worked. Like the lower octave is a little down, the center harmony is a little down too. I've kind of got these three harmonies around the same place, and then the vocals, obviously, the leads push above everything else, mainly. But because I just listened to them and I thought how great everything was, I did move like a few things just to get them a tiny bit more, like just for my OCD. Like I just cut a few areas just to push them in spot where I thought they could have been a tiny bit better, but that's just me. That's not on anyone else. So I put in virtual mix rack, which was just like an airy vocals that I've adjusted. The FG Bomber is a beast. This thing's so cool, and the FG Stress is awesome. Like this, you know, their emulation of the distressor, and their FG Bomber is awesome, as long as like with the saturation with the New Yorker and then some like EQ as well. Then I put on my EQ band, which is very simple, like a little boost here, little cut, a few cuts, low end cut, then a de-esser as well, pretty standard. Then a multi-band for just like some vocal enhancement as well, and then soothe for a little bit, just de-harsh at a top line level because there's so much going on, and then just like a little bit of a trim as well. So with all that on,
She's the sweetest thing that I've ever known. And oh, I want the taste of a tongue going down my throat.
now with it on,
Oh, as long as I'm standing here, you'll never be alone.
off.
And oh, get me back to you. I can't get back to you now.
Yeah, and then what I've got here is I've got Echo Boy. So down the bottom here, you can see I've got a quarter note delay. I've got a pure plate. So I use Echo Boy for a quarter note delay, which I like, with the tempo plugged in. Then I've got a pure plate, which I really like as well. I don't know why it's like that. Is it going to give me a remote view? Maybe it's not. Whatever. Nope, not happening. The UAD pure plate, which I really like, and then I've got Echo Boy on as well for, wow, it's really not giving it to me. For quarter note delay, pure plate, and then just kind of like a slap back going on as well. I do the sends out, like the three effects. They're effects channel that I send out, and I mix them in to taste when I feel like it. So all together.
Oh, she's the sweetest thing that I've ever known. And oh, I want the taste of her tongue never be alone.
One thing I've also done is I've also just automated the hell out of all this, because it got to the point where I just was becoming less and less of a fan of things melding in the gaps, and there was also some white sound that I didn't like going on as a result of build up of certain artifacts from things I was putting on. So I got rid of all of that, and then with this I just put like EQ and a little bit of reverb on it to get it all together.
And oh, get me back to you. I can't get back to you now.
So if I hear it all together,
Settle down, you're with me. Oh, settle down. And we're over this town. Oh, she's the sweetest thing that I've ever known. And oh, I want the taste of her tongue going down my throat. Oh, as long as I'm standing here, you'll never be alone. And oh, get me back to you. I can't get back to you now. I can't get back to you.
so I've got the vocal breakdown, guitars, synths, piano, bass, pads, drums, an instrumental and a cappella bus. They go into a 2-bus out, which goes into the stereo out for comparison work and ISO 8 for referencing work. I export that out at a, I believe a 24-bit, 24-bit export that goes into a mastering session, and I did the whole album master in one thing, and then sequenced that in Hoffa burner. But yeah, that's pretty much the entire mix breakdown for Sweetest Thing, which is out now. You can stream that everywhere, on all your favorite streaming services. I've put out a solo video of the playthrough for the guitar as well. The track features Devin Barrus. He's an incredible vocalist. Go hit him up if you want session work done by him. He's an absolute G and gets things done in a very quick and efficient turnaround time. But yeah, thank you for watching, and hopefully you learnt something and got a little insight into the mixing process for this song. So thanks.